descent is a lot more dynamic than launch. So launch, you're basically you're going up and the loads are in one direction. And you also just have a whole mission ahead of you. Going back down, like, you're going home, but the ride is just a lot more dynamic. And there's a lot more things happen on the way down.
Really?
That are pretty critical to you making it safely to the ground. So, and the crew has a lot more action to take on the descent. But just even the undock from space station, like, you have no idea. Anything can happen. Like, you have no idea if you're ever going to come back to space station again. So It's definitely emotional. And Soyuz has windows, and I have a window right next to my head. So as we undocked, the spacecraft backs away from the docking port and then rotates. And so I could see airlock outside my window, the U.S. airlock outside my window. That goes out of view. And then as the spacecraft rotates, you see the solar arrays, these like giant gold arrays that you've been seeing every day for the last 204 days. But then you're seeing them like maybe for the last time. I have no idea if I'll ever go there again. And so it's this thing that you know so well and love, and you're leaving it. And so that was hard. You have 2 orbits then, while you're getting ready to actually re-enter the atmosphere. And I got to see some of my favorite places on the planet, which was cool and unexpected. Like, we flew up over the Himalayas, Japan, like out over the Pacific into sunset. It was just like one of my favorite passes to make. Yeah. So that was really cool. And then like you actually get to the point where you're going to re-enter the atmosphere, and you're flying kind of northeast up across Africa, like up the Arabian Peninsula and towards Kazakhstan, basically. And like northern Africa is really really colorful. The Sahara Desert, Mediterranean, and everything is just a really beautiful view from space, kind of like your classic space view. And also one of my favorites. And so like we're coming up and I'm just looking out the window and you see like northern Africa. I saw the Nile River, all the reservoirs, and that's like as we're starting to enter the atmosphere. So I started to see like all the little bits of just like, that just looks like flames outside your window, pieces of the window and the heat shield burning as you're entering the atmosphere, and the G's are starting to build. And so I'm just like watching this super familiar scene of the Nile, and that whole scene as we're flying up and the window's burning and like getting darker and darker until finally it's just completely charred and you can't see anything. But at that point also the G's are really high. And,
it sounds terrifying.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I suppose terrifying as well. But at that point it was just this crazy ride. Like you're just doing it. And like this is similar to launch. Like things are pretty out of your control. Like if something goes wrong, you have to take pretty quick action at that point. But so you're just like looking at the screens, monitoring the systems, but also just you're there for the ride. We hit 4.5 Gs also on descent, same as landing. But at this point, you've been in microgravity for 6 months.
Oh, so it's.
Yeah. So I remember thinking like, oh, that's like, we must be getting close to like 3 or 4 Gs. And I look at the control panel and we're like at 0.3 or 0.4. And I was we're not even at half a G yet. And I feel like there's an elephant on my chest. It was crazy.
What did it feel like when you got to 4? Like there were 4 elephants on your chest?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just a lot more extreme than like the same 4.5 Gs was not the same 4.5 Gs. But yeah, you make it through. Probably the most critical part of descent is the parachutes opening. And there's a main parachute and a reserve parachute. And so the odds of a parachute opening are really high. Like the parachute is never not open, but you also know like that's a critical point. And so you're just waiting for the chutes to open. And when they opened the capsule, like anything under parachute, like we were spinning. The capsule was spinning, but then it was also swinging around. So it's just like you're just on like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Oh
like,
yeah,
everything's moving around, and you're just like swinging around wildly underneath the parachute.
Is there like a major sense of relief when you hit the ground,
I'd say the major sense of relief was one when the parachutes opened. We kind of just like me and then the other woman she was in the left seat. Like she kind of started laughing. Like all three of us were just kind of like laughing and
Like
celebrating.
Yeah.
I had to stow 2 hand controllers at that point, so I was like also then immediately focused on trying to get those stowed before the next things happened. But yeah, that was a good feeling. And then as we settled out underneath the parachute, it kind of just felt like we were in a boat, like in a ship in the ocean. Like as you're headed out to sea, you just kind of get these like gentle rollers and you're just kind of swaying a little bit. And it was really nice.
And where do you land?
In Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Kind of in.
Who's there to pick you up?
I'd say the middle of nowhere, but there's people around.
Sure.
The whole ground, there's a ground team that's there. So like all of our flight surgeons are there. The chiefs of our office are there. So there's like NASA leadership, and then there's a nurse, flight surgeon, people who are there to collect all the samples because we do a bunch of blood draws and like samples right before we leave, and so there's like early unstow stuff, cargo that they're there to take. There's a whole team out there. Mm-hmm. They all get out there by helicopters. They
just work you up real quick.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you hit the ground. It's like being in a car accident.
Really?
I think I had like gotten it talked up a lot. So I was like expecting a little bit harder of a hit. It wasn't as violent as I expected it to be, but you make a big divot in the earth. And we landed kind of on our side, like the capsule was on its side. So we were a little bit heads down, which was really uncomfortable. Like all three of us, They'd only been on orbit for 10 days, but all three of us were like, and then they roll the capsule upright, and then you're at least kind of like sitting a little bit more upright.
What is it like to go from experiencing zero gravity or microgravity to 4Gs, 4.5 Gs, and then just being like reacquainted with gravity as we know it?
The 4.5 Gs is brief, but like it's just this huge mix of emotions because you're back on Earth. You're done. Like you're kind of done at that point. You're just sort of like someone's going to be taking care of you. You just have to sit there and like survive it.
Do you just physically feel like shit a couple days after you get back?
So I felt fine in the capsule. Yeah. Then as they were sliding me out the side, they carried me over and sat me upright in a chair. Like there's just a tarp on the ground. You're in the middle of the steppe in Kazakhstan. So there's like nothing around except maybe some guys on horses. And there's 3 chairs in this. So they plop you down in this chair. It was pretty hot. The sun was out. So you're like sitting in the sun in your spacesuit. And the second they sat me upright, I was just like, oh no. Like I felt so bad for about 12 hours. I just started throwing up.
Oh, really?
And it was just like rounds. I'd be like, okay, I'm good. And then I'd be right back in it.
Did they attribute it to anything? Is that like a normal reaction?
That's pretty normal.
Why?
Well, your vestibular system is completely confused. Like gravity is basically completely confused your whole vestibular system. So it's trying to figure out.
It's got to recalibrate.
Yeah, it's got to recalibrate. So it's just nauseous. It's like being severely motion sick.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was not. But it's also this experience that like it's this really unique experience. And so you're also like the charred capsule was sitting right in front of me. So, and they're also trying to like give you gifts. Like I got this little Matryoshka doll with my face on it and stuff. So they're like, all these people are here. They're so excited to see you. You're so excited to see them. It's like you're back on planet Earth. The capsule is there. And so you're trying to like enjoy it, but it's just like I'd like enjoy it for a minute. You call it like I called my mom on a satellite phone and talked to her for about 30 seconds, and then was just like, so I can't do it. I gotta throw up again. So you're just it was just this like rounds of enjoying the moment and then just hating your life and puking into a plastic bag. It was like it's not very glamorous.
I was gonna say it doesn't sound like the glamorous reentry. Like I have like this triumphant like pop the hatch.
Yeah. I mean some people feel really good, but like I was also like, it's just like I must be like in the worst shape of anyone. And they're like, no, this is pretty normal. But I'd never been in the field with a newly returned crew member before, so I'd only seen people, 24 hours after they landed. So you just like don't get to see that part.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching this bonus clip. For more of this kind of thing, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. If you want to see the episode where we got this clip from, you can see it right up there. And if you want to see more podcasts, playlist right there. Check them out. Super good. I like that. This really was a good episode.